Hi folks, and especially you folks that have supported me early on Patreon. Welcome to the first video that we're going to be calling Walks with Jack. And one of the folks that signed up for the level to get Walks with Jack asked me to do walkthroughs of the swales. I don't know if we'll always be doing that, but since he was the first one and he asked, and no one else has asked yet, we'll make sure we start off with walks through the swales on this episode. And I also want to tell you guys a little bit about what this is all going to be about and how you can be part of helping to make it better. First of all, you're probably thinking, well, I'm not a Patreon member and I'm seeing this on Jack's YouTube channel. Yep, you are, and you're seeing it on Jack's YouTube channel because Jack is putting the first one out for everybody so people get a feel of what it's like and understand that you'll be able to also help contribute to how it goes. And I can do some interesting things. I'm trying this a little bit, maybe a little bit higher tech. I'm using my monopod, so things are a little bit more still as we go through than my typical property walks. I'm going to probably start using her Duck Chronicles and my other YouTube video property walks as well. I'll still be doing property walks on the regular YouTube channel that will just be, hey, check this area out, check that area out. Because I want this one to be more interactive. And I want to also help you guys out there that want to be content creators and want your own businesses. And because of my monopod acting like a selfie stick, maybe once in a while I'll say hello to you and you actually see me in front of the camera today as the ducks approach. Anyway, before we get into some of that, let's just talk about some of the things that are going on here. I want you to just take a look at the mulberries on the property, and I've been pretty proud of them this year, but I think you can see why. I mean, these are the little ones. This tree's produced smaller ones than a lot of the other ones. And with mulberries, you want them where you just touch them and they come off. So if you'll excuse me a moment, I'm going to have a snack as the girls head over to say hello. And this is a mulberry we planted as a cutting last year, 2 years ago. So this has been in the ground 2 years as a cutting. Same with this guy over here. He doesn't get as much rounded sunlight because he's got this big locust behind him here. But he's not looking bad either. I think I'll have one more yummy berry here before we move on. Another one back there. Lots of mulberries. And I'm also really happy with my white mulberry trees. They are looking, that tree's about 14 foot tall now. And unlike these dwarfs, it had to get some size on it before it started producing. And if you look right there, you'll see it's got a good fruit set this year. I got like 10 off it last year. They tasted like candy. Some of you guys were here when we planted it. This is an old tree for this property. At least it's an old tree for the stuff that's in the ground. Because this was planted the first major planting workshop we ever did. Major tree planting workshop we ever did. Locusts. Lots of vetch this year. All of it's naturalized, coming back on its own. Ducks love it. Sad little mulberry that was in a pot bound, and threw it in the ground this year. It'll be good by next year. Things starting to look up here on the swale. The girls will have their pools moved into this area tomorrow. As you can see, it needs a little bit more grazing in spite of the fact that they've been back here longer than they should have been by now. But that's, there's a lot in each one of these swales. I could spend 10 minutes going from here to here, and maybe we'll do that in the future. But today, again, I want to kind of get an idea out for you about not just my property, but what these are supposed to be all about. See all my locust trees coming in there. We're going to have lots of nice shade. We'll kind of cruise through the rest of the property. And I don't know if this monopod will make when I'm walking better or worse. I've had people suggest I get a stabilizer for the phone that helps stabilize when you're walking. And I ordered like the best one there is, and it's been back ordered since before Christmas. So I'm about to give up and try something else. But as you can see, one of the things I've done here is I've got these locust trees, and it's getting like jungle-like here. It's hard to believe. Some of you guys have actually been to this property. I'm going to lower my monopod just a little bit. Have been to this property and know that to see growth like this here is, it's kind of insane. But what I want to do with this, like I said, is I want to bring not just what's going on the property, but how I can help you. What do you want to learn? What are you interested in? Especially you guys that, like I said, you want to build some sort of an enterprise of your own, whether it's online and high tech or offline. Send me your business questions, and we'll be putting stuff out like that through Patreon. And I'm gonna rethink this monopod thing here, because as tall as this grass is anymore, which is crazy to think about, it's actually snagging as I walk, but I think it probably is better. Another one of those white mulberries. I want to talk about things like Patreon. One of the reasons that I am doing Patreon, we come through, this is the second swale in the system, apple's just starting to bud out, is that, you know, I saw what happened to Cody, Wrangler Star, and that had to be a huge hit to his revenue. And I've stayed out of like trying to make my main sources of revenue, you know, through third-party platforms. But I realized not everybody's going to be able to do what I wanted, what I would do. And Patreon really is a third-party platform. That cherry tree there. Patreon is a third-party platform. Really, it's kind of different because it puts you directly in connection with your customers. You're able to see them, they're able to see you, they know who you are, and you're setting your pricing, etc. So I see it more like, you know, PayPal's a third-party transaction party, but they're not going to shut you off, you know? They're just your merchant provider. I see Patreon kind of working like a merchant provider with tools. And I think a lot of you guys that are doing really great content that are struggling and killing yourselves, you look at a muscadine vine there. I've been training that one for 2 years to make, you know, 50 to 100 bucks on YouTube through the AdSense platform. You know, if you just had 10 people giving you 10 bucks a month, that's 100 bucks a month, and that might make it at least worth taking to another level. Those are bush cherries coming in, black cherries coming in, and lo and behold, I don't believe it, we've discovered something together, folks. I did not notice that. That's a chingapin. I thought they all died. That tree looks great. That's a testament to this system, honestly, really. You know, but you know, you get even 100 people giving you $5. That's $500 a month. That for a lot of people changes your lifestyle, or at least you finally are contributing something to your retirement. And I think Patreon is one way, not the only way, but one way you can get there. So part of why I'm doing this is to become better at the platform myself. Again, bush cherries all through here. We planted a bunch of these this year. I got those from Coldstream Farm. I think they were about 50 cents a piece when I bought 100 of them. So that's just something that you'll buy them as sand cherry at Coldstream Farm. So I know I'm going back and forth, but I thought that would be kind of cool. And we'll take your input and whether or not you want that or not in the future. But for now, we're going to continue. This is a fig tree. This is a Daphne fig. And of all the figs that I planted out in this really harsh area, excuse me, this was the one that survived the winter last year, which was really a harsh winter for at least a week or two, and killed everything else to the ground. So now we know which fig we can plant, you know, and that's kind of revenue platforms too. You try different ones, and the ones that work for you are the ones that you really put the most effort into. So again, if you can get, you know, even just a few hundred people kicking in $1, $2, $5 here, you really can do something, I think, with this Patreon thing. And I know there's people that make really good livings on it. I've heard from a couple people in my audience already that basically said it saved their business. I've been asked not to reveal specifics about the most recent one, but I won't. But it's a pretty compelling story for how it can be quite beneficial. As you can see, this property is not the same property. Those of you that have been around a while know things are really changing here. Another one of those white mulberry trees. I can't tell you how good those things are. The jujube, autumn olive, another autumn olive. Persimmon, it's leaning really hard. We got to get that guy kind of straightened up a bit, I guess. That's all native trees. They call these things onion trees around here. I don't know what they really are, but they're kind of a trash tree. But they make good biomass, so we just chop and drop them. It really is amazing to look at this property. And what I want you guys to think about is how can you make a business or a lifestyle grow like this property? Think about it. This property had everything going against it. And yet today, here it is. Just absolutely beautiful. And I know what some of you guys are thinking. What is this plant? You don't know the truth? I didn't plant it. I don't know what it is. Nice little find. We're going to cut there about every 10 minutes in these walks. I'll cut off and pick up somewhere else so that the videos don't get too long to upload. So we've relocated to the other side of the property. This is what we would call the, get out of the water, idiots. This is the northwest corner of the property where I have what I call the big pond, which actually is a very small pond, but on my property, it's the big pond. And the dogs love to come down here. I just missed it. They jumped a couple frogs into the pond. That's always a good thing. You know that your ecosystem is healthy. And the minnows are already going mental in here. I don't know if you can see them on the camera or not, but there's a ton of them there. Last year by summertime, and I expect it to be the same this year, there were so many minnows in this pond at night you would have sworn you could walk across on them. And boy, that's good food for the fish, and it's also indicative again of a healthy ecosystem. I've been asked about how cloudy this pond is, and the truth is it's really not that cloudy. If I put this water in a cup, it's actually surprisingly clear. Maybe I'll do that on a future video, and I'm trying to make that more so. You see my bees are hanging out on the aquatic plants down there, but that is a zola, the stuff that's carpet-like. And I have a bunch of it in my little pond, and I'm about once a week, it goes from half the pond to the whole little pond covered. And I take about half of it off and I bring it down here. And the nice thing about that, it's real easy to control. Just a pool skimmer, and you can take it right off the pond if it starts to get too much down here. And it really cleared up everything up there. What makes this look cloudy is since it's lined with bentonite, the bottom is real easy to stir up. And a lot of times it's just suspended solid. So you can see out there, there's kind of a cloud right now, probably a big school of catfish moved around in the mud, and that's more what it is than any kind of algae or growth or anything like that. But what I want to kind of talk to you about down here at the pond is the concept of investments in a new way. Trees didn't grow real well in this little berm we put in here, probably because I've had a couple people run over it with their trucks, but you can see that little tree right there. I had a listener and friend that was out at the property one day and says, is there anything we can do to help you? I said, well, we're going to plant some trees. And he was planting this tree. And he said, you know what you're doing, Jack? I said, well, I know what I'm doing. Do you know what I'm doing? And he said, you're making little investments on this property all over the place. You know, one little tree that grows up into something that produces food for you, that's a long-term investment, and it improves the value of the property, just like that little persimmon tree that's leaning over there. Or there's, I don't know if you can see it in the shadow, but there's an Illinois ever-bearing mulberry back there. There's a giant ever-bearing mulberry back there, and the whole back of this dam is just planted with locust trees that will provide shade and stability. That's an investment. And out here in this field, we have this row of locust trees, and that's an investment. And if you make enough investments, the investments start paying dividends. That right there, that's a cottonwood. I didn't plant it. Just decided it wanted to grow here. Will it make it? I don't know, but it's improving this environment that started to create those dividends. And what I am so big on, when I'm trying to tell you guys, you know, start your own business, set up a side hustle, whatever it is I know the value of these things, even when they don't directly or hugely succeed. The guy that sets up a side hustle makes $300 a month for about 5 months of actual profit, decides it's not worth it anymore. He generally goes on and does something new. He goes on and does something else. He goes on and does something different. He goes on and does something more. He doesn't just quit because he's got a taste of it now. And as we make investments like this beautiful comfrey plant right here, and you can see it's covered with bees right now. And if you see right there, again, I don't know what this plant is because that's growing up in between the comfrey, but we got a big old bumblebee cruising around that. These are dividends. And when we think of a dividend, we think of it usually because we're trained to think the way that the system trains us to think, that the only way we get a dividend is we buy a stock and we risk our money. Well, people that start their own businesses create their own dividends, sometimes actual dividends because they pay a dividend out of the profit. But the company itself, as it grows, as it develops, as it gives you opportunities you would otherwise have, and puts money in your pocket, those are all dividends. When you're paying your salary out of your own company, you know, and you're not talking about just contract labor, you work by the hour and say you're in your own business. When you start to actually develop a business that produces money even when you're not working, those are dividends. You might pay them as a salary, but you should think of them as dividends, as returns on your investment. It's a very, very powerful concept. YouTube creators that are building out their channels right now, one reason I said I'm hot on this Patreon thing is, do you know I have over 700 videos? I have over 700 videos on YouTube, close to 5 million views. And what would it take for me to go back to every single one of those videos now and put a link and some kind of notice, hey, you can support me on Patreon? It would take a lot, and I might do some of them, but there's no way I can do them all. But if you're just starting out and you do this thing early on, even if nobody's actually supporting you, you're creating the potential for future dividends. We'll come down here. I believe that's yarrow, white yarrow. I'm not really sure what it is, but there's tons of it. Go down and see the bees, how they are doing. They're another investment that produces the dividend in honey and wax and pollination and the ability to divide them into more hives. See, this is how you have to start thinking. You have to start thinking about creating dividends in your life, investments in your life, everywhere that you go. You have to start looking at when you go out to like a workshop and you meet other people. That's like another investment. You have no idea, you know, what's going to happen someday. Yeah, I got bees in my hair. They're a little bit aggravated with me today. I probably smell from working outside, not taking a shower. But, you know, when you meet people and you develop that relationship, I don't mean to be parasitical. I don't mean to take advantage of that person. But the more people you know that you can trust, that you can work with, that you can rely on, that can rely on you, those are more investments to produce more dividends. And this is how you build a life of true wealth. You do it by constantly investing. One of the greatest lies we've been taught is that the wealthy people among us are greedy. Think of how many stereotypical characters in TV shows, in books, in literature, music, in the political landscape with the us versus them mentality. How many people that are characterized as being rich and greedy? You know what? There is some what you call old money out there. People that didn't do anything for their money, trust fund babies and all. But people that actually develop wealth, are constantly making investments. And let me tell you something about investments. Investments require risk. Otherwise, they're not investments. There's no guaranteed investment. There's no 100% safe investment. Some are safer than others. But that tree that I planted right there, it's looking really good. It's doing really good. It's healthy. It's happy. It's going to grow up. And unless something goes wrong with it, because there's still risk involved, but after a year in the ground and looking like it is now, it's going to probably do quite well. And as that tree grows, since it's going to crave sunlight, it's going to go out over top of that pond. And it'll make more mulberries than I can eat, and it'll make some mulberries I can't reach. And those mulberries will drop into this pond, and guess what? Channel catfish that I eat can eat mulberries. Channel catfish actually like mulberries. It's a weird thing, but they do. That's an investment. But when I put that tree in the ground there was no guarantee that that investment would pay off. There still isn't a guarantee. It's now at a higher level of potential to pay off. We're now at a point where the investment's begun to develop. It's like a company that you made it through your first year and you actually made a little bit of profit. It's probably going to make it, but there's still no guarantee. And this is why the characterization of rich people as greedy is so misleading, because how many greedy people constantly risk for greater reward? And the answer is not many, because greedy people, they hold on to things tightly, tight-fisted. Well, the way you hold on to wealth, the way that you hold on to money and actually hold on to it and actually keep it, is you hold it like sand. If you hold sand like this, you can hold a lot of sand, even though some falls through your fingers, you don't worry about it. If you grip sand tightly, you can hold nothing. People that grip tightly don't make investments. They often never become wealthy. They often always wish that they were wealthy. They wish they were somebody else. They wish they would win the lottery. But they don't take the risk. Buying a lottery ticket's not a risk. It's throwing your money away. Could pay off, but it probably won't. A risk is calculated. A risk is there's a potential here for more, for growth. And the thing about investing wisely, whether we invest in nature or whether we invest in businesses, dividends just start showing up everywhere, like that beautiful dragonfly that's cruising around out there right now that I can't get on the camera. Like those willows that I don't know where they came from that are coming up there on the side of the bank. All of these things are dividends. But they all come with this potential. A dead tree. A sad tree that's not going to make it. And a tree that's so dead, that's not it. It's actually just missing. Sometimes you fail. But you're better off trying and failing than never trying in the first place. We'll catch up with you in a bit. So I've got the camera flipped around now, and we'll start out with what I'm going to call the tech tip of the segment. And we're going to learn together this time. So I wanted to let you guys know something. You can see I'm here in the aviary. I'm a little sweaty from walking around on the property. It's pretty hot today. It was pretty beautiful in here. This is one of my favorite places. And I'm using one of my stands to hold up the monopod, so it's like it's on a tripod now, and I can just stand here and talk to you with my earpiece in. This is how we get that great audio quality on the iPhone 7. And I use the iPhone 7 to shoot my videos. And you might see it's amazing video quality. And I've been doing a lot of videos lately at 1080 and 60p. And I hear from people once in a while, why'd you go back to 720? And here's what happens. So this is important for you iPhone users to know. When you shoot video on the iPhone 7, you can shoot it at 720, at 30p or 60p. That's frames per second. And the more frames per second, the more clarity, less jerky, herky-jerky stuff you get going on. Or you can shoot at 1080, 30 or 60 frames per second. Or you can shoot at 4K at 30 frames per second. However, if you upload straight from your phone to YouTube using the application, when it compresses the file size, it's going to reduce it to 720 no matter how you shot it. So if you want to upload at 1080 or 4K, and I think 1080 is about as good as it's going to get for right now. I don't think 4K is worth it at the current time with current technology. But if you want to upload at 1080, what you have to do is you have to put the video on your computer, even if you're not going to edit it, and then upload it to YouTube. So there's our little tech tip of the day. And I think that'll help a lot of you guys that are like deciding whether or not to use your iPhone. This is the video quality that's possible, but here's the thing we're going to learn together now. I got the camera flipped around. I remember way back in the day, one of my first iPhones, I did a video like this. I'm like, why does the quality suck? Well, it dropped to lower quality when you flip the camera. We'll find out if this happens. We'll also find out this. When you do this, if you have one video that drops the quality and you piece them all together with the YouTube editor, does it maintain the higher quality and just let the clip suffer? Does it reduce the entire new video to the lowest quality clip inside of it? We're going to find that out together as we put this one out. It's the kind of technical stuff we'll be doing. But I wanted to continue on my last segment where we were talking about investments and dividends, and it just so happens that I had one of these. Now, some of you are looking at it going, what the heck's a Yingling? And some of you are going, oh, it's Yingling. And you're familiar with it because you live, east of the Mississippi River, or maybe even in the coal region of Pennsylvania where I grew up. When I grew up, this was called, well, not so affectionately, Pottsville Pisswater. It's in Pottsville, Pennsylvania, oldest brewery in America. But it was kind of like the kid that was like the lowest level kid on a football team. No one could say something negative about him except the rest of the football team. You don't talk about him because you don't play and you don't know what it takes. That's how it was with this stuff. We condemned it all the time, but when an out-of-towner said something, we got upset. But now it's a multi-billion-dollar company. And Dick Yingling, the current owner and president of it, is a multi-millionaire. Actually, he's a multi-billionaire at this point. And people look at that and say, well, that's that old money you're talking about, Jack. That's that guy that just inherited a fortune and he didn't do anything for it. No. That's not how Dick Yingling became a billionaire at all. Here's the actual truth of it. His father had run Yingling Brewery almost into the ground. It was on the verge of bankruptcy because it never grew outside of Schuylkill County, Pennsylvania, a very small area to do business in. And he knew with the microbrew revolution coming along that they could use the concept of being the oldest brewery in America and really make something out of it and come out with more than just traditional lager, and they could have other things as well, porters and stuff like that, and they could really play that up. He believed it. He believed it so much he went to his father and he said, this is what I think we should do. And his dad said, you know what, son, that's a fine idea and I'm done with this. I'm going to sell the brewery. You want to buy it? We'll do a fair market valuation. Go secure funding. You can buy the brewery and run it however you want to. And you know what he said? Deal. And he took a brewery that really wasn't going anywhere, and at best it was going to go out of business in 10 years. And he turned it into a multi-billion-dollar concern. And this is what I'm talking about when I say people look at somebody and they say, oh, they had everything handed to them. Oh, it was easy for them. Oh, they're lucky. You know, there is some luck in the world, but luck does not sustain you. Luck helps you out here and there. There's no doubt about that. But in the end, it's consistency and hard work and risk that really pay off. And I'm kind of proud to say that I went to school with some of the children in that family, Dick's children, because Pottsville was a small place. And they were good, hardworking, down-to-earth people. And I think they still are from what I've seen about them since I've moved on to other things. And I think if you can't start to understand that is the typical story of wealth generation, whether it's somebody that's a billionaire like them or someone that just gets to live their dream the way that I do. I'm not a billionaire. I'm not even close to a billionaire. But I live a nice life and I do it doing the things I love. No matter who that person is at either end of that extreme, it's hard work, determination, and investment and reinvestment of those dividends that lead to success. We'll catch up with you with another segment in just a second. All right, so for the next segment, we're going to stick to the aviary and kind of take a look at things around here, see how things are going. I'm talking about some things I've done since maybe the last time you saw videos on YouTube. One thing I've been using this raft bed for is actually rooting cuttings. And you can see all of the watercress that I've got ready to move on to other things here. Got some tomato clones going and got some sweet potato buried in there somewhere. There's one of them right down there, a little slip starting. And I'm going to be actually changing this up so that all of my deep water beds look just like this, with a one horizontal ebb and flow bed in a 14-gallon concrete tray, and then half of a raft bed so that we can put pescados. And if you speak Spanish, you know what that means. Pescados is fishes. We're going to put the pescados in there with them and have multiple fish tanks as that tank empties itself right there. But what I actually wanted to talk was being able to think. It's a very rare thing today. I was just talking to my young farmhand. He's run off to do other things now. He was in here picking up eggs. And he was filling these feeders up. And I don't know how long he's been doing this, but I caught him today, and he gets a feeder. He goes over there. He fills the feeder from the bucket. He brings it back. He gets another feeder, and he goes over. He's doing this back and forth, like a union worker or something, And I talked to him about it. I said, would it be easier if he just brought the bucket into here? And I'm not that much of a hard ass him on his hours or anything. He's going to work about the same number of hours every day anyway. I usually round him up. We're doing this mainly, like a paid internship, so he learns something that kids generally don't learn. But I said to him, have you ever heard work smart, not hard? He looked me dead in the eye and he said, no, never heard that. Now, if you think it's just young kids, I want you to look at this here. You see all those wires? Like this, I wired up all of the vining plants, and you can see I cleared out the understory so we get good airflow because we got such dense plantings here. Squash going up, tomatoes going up, another squash going up. A guy commented on my video, one of my videos of this aviary not too long ago, and he said two things. How will you ever support those tomatoes? And how will you ever possibly pick them? And every once in a while, I'm kind of a smart ass. I really am. It happens. And some of you know it happens more than people would realize if they only watch me on YouTube. And I made a comment. I won the internet for the day, I think, with it. I said something along the lines of, first you must cross into the mystical kingdom of Narnia, where you can find a powerful tool that works well if you can find one, called a stepladder. Once you have your powerful stepladder, then you have to go to Mordor and find something called stainless steel wire. Mordor is also known as Tractor Supply, and Narnia is also known as Lowe's. And then with your mighty stepladder, you can reach higher and use your awesome power of reach to attach the wire to the ceiling and run it down to your bed. And I think that the actual comment was funnier and better than that, but you get the idea. Well, here's the thing. The reason I did that was just to get the person to start thinking. Just to begin to think beyond the limitations that we have placed on us. And for many of you guys that are younger people, it's not your fault, but it is your problem. And I think it's very important that you understand the difference between what's your fault and what's your problem. Yes, the modern education system sucks. Yes, telling every kid that they should go to college, whether they're smart enough for it or not, is a dumb idea, and there's things you can do in life that don't require college that actually will make you do really well for yourself. I myself have only been to college to guest lecture, never as a student. That should say something. Yes, some people should go. Yes, you guys are laid down with student debt, and the next generation of you has been having it heaped onto them. Yes, they didn't teach you to think. Yes, they taught you Common Core math. Yes, the generation before you screwed you up. No, it's not your fault, but it is your problem. It's absolutely your problem because you're the one that has to deal with it. And you have to decide if you're going to limit your thinking as to something as simple as how you'd make a vine be supported, and then, gee, if a fruit's up there, how will you ever reach it 8 feet in the air? You know, you might be able to not even go to Mordor and get a ladder. Maybe you could just go under there and grab a cinder block that lifts you up 12 inches, and maybe if you're a 6-foot tall person, you could reach that fruit up there or tie that vine and train it on along forward. I'm not putting down the person that made the comment. I don't want you to think I am. I'm putting down the system that encourages the limited thinking. The limited thinking that would never allow you to build something like this aviary. The limited thinking that told me when I was starting out with this, not my own limited thinking, but the limited thinking, tons of people with limited thinking, you can't grow quail out in the open like this. It's not safe, they can't live, they'll fly, they'll kill themselves, they'll break their necks. These quail have been in here a year. Limited thinking got us nowhere. A willingness to try got us to basically the closest thing you'll ever see to a free-range quail. You'll never be able to have, you know, a worm bed in this part of Texas because the ants will destroy them. Well, there's worms in the bed because the quail eat them. This is why I love permaculture. It's part of why I think more young people should do permaculture. Not just because you learn how to feed yourself, not just because you learn how to grow things, but because you learn a troubleshooting mentality. How do I fix stuff? How do I correct things? How do I figure out what's wrong and make it right? How do I figure out what's right and make it better? How do I realize that just because something works doesn't mean it's as good as it can be? How do I figure out when something is as good as it can be right now, accept that, and put my efforts to other places? This is what we call critical thinking skills and logical analysis. It's something we're not teaching you if you're one of the younger people in the world. But guess what? We are teaching you. I'm teaching you. Hundreds, thousands of people are trying to teach you. They're reaching out to you all over the world. They're telling you how to look at the world in a different way. And again, all of the problems you have aren't your fault, but they are your problems, and you're the one that's going to have to deal with them. And those of you that are a little older that feel a little bit more secure in yourselves and feel like, well, I don't have those problems, I bet you have some that are just as bad or worse. And it's up to you what you're going to do about it. What I'm going to continue to do about it is teach as much as I can to encourage people to understand what's possible if we start living with a mentality of abundance rather than one of limitation. There's so many things that we've been able to accomplish through the TSP communities, the survival podcast communities, folks, because we didn't listen to what wasn't possible. Because when people said something wouldn't work, we did it anyway. And just like I talked about earlier with investments and dividends, and we did some things that failed miserably, that fell on their face. But you know what? We just got up and did something else. We just kept working. We just kept looking for something more. I wonder if we can see the fish in there. Probably not while it's cycling. Tilapia are out here now. Yeah. Tilapia are hanging out. Quail are happy. They just had all of their eggs picked up by our farmhand. And he does a good job. Don't take what I was saying earlier wrong. It's just an example. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you'll consider supporting us on Patreon so you can get at least one monthly video like this. I want to hear from you. What do you want in these videos, these Walk with Jack videos? What are your questions about business? What are your questions about YouTube? What are your questions about podcasting? What are your questions that you want me to go into it in a different way than I've been going through on the podcast for almost 9 years now? When I get out here like this, and I do this kind of in this guerrilla environment, it opens something up. It opens up a viewpoint that I don't quite always get when I'm sitting down behind my desk. I've enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Tell me what you want to see and consider supporting us on Patreon for more videos like this first one. I think they'll only get better from here because from now on, they will come with your input, and you guys are what makes this channel and the survival podcast community all that it is. I thank you.